August 15th, 2009. Kandahar Airfield. Dawn breaks over the desert dust, but there's no warmth. Only tension. The ramp of the C-130 dropped, and I stepped out. My boots hit the cracked asphalt, and I felt the heat climb my spine before it even reached my face. Silence surrounded us, so thick it felt alive. Not peaceful, not safe, just heavy, waiting. We were the 1st Battalion, 501st Parachute Infantry, Task Force Devil, assigned to Helmand Province's volatile Sanjin district. Everyone knew someone from another unit had died here last month, or last week. Some didn't return at all. And yet, here we were, walking into what felt like a ghost story written in dust and mountains. The villages around Sanjin, small mud brick clusters, seemed frozen in time. Women in burqas carried water from wells. Children stared, unblinking. Men passed silently, eyes careful, hands alert. One wrong movement, our patrol learned quickly, could trigger an IED buried under what seemed like ordinary dirt. I remember thinking, I came alive, but alive doesn't mean untouched. You survive in pieces here. You leave parts of yourself in every town you walk through, every rooftop you scan, every corner you check for motion. The first patrol was late August 2009. Our mission, show presence, gain trust, map the routes for resupply convoys. But the Taliban didn't wear uniforms. They blended into the terrain, into villages, into marketplaces. Silence was danger. Every unmoving shadow could be the enemy. By the 3rd day, I learned to read hands. Not faces. Faces could lie, perform, trick. But hands, tight grip, twitch, hesitation, betrayed intent. The heat climbed during the day, up to 110 Fahrenheit. Our gear weighed like stone. We carried M4s, extra mags, body armor, helmets, hydration packs, radios, grenades, everything. Every extra pound felt like a reminder that one wrong step could end us. On August 18th, 2009, we hit Marja for a reconnaissance patrol. The streets were narrow, lined with mud brick walls. Civilians moved quietly, giving nothing away. Then the ground beneath Private Adams shifted slightly. He froze, just a pebble out of place, but training screams louder than instinct here. I felt it too. We stepped around it carefully. That pebble could have been a pressure plate IED. A life saved silently. Nightfall brought little comfort. Outpost at Nawa, Helmand Province. HESCO barriers, sandbags, and the distant hum of generators. Even with walls and armed guards, the desert spoke. Wind rattled loose metal. A distant dog barked. Footsteps in the wrong place could mean nothing or everything. By the end of the first week, the rhythm was constant. Patrolling, scanning, listening. Trusting Afghan soldiers we barely knew. Watching their eyes, their hands, how they moved. Some of them had families in the villages we passed. They couldn't leave. They couldn't rotate home. They had to live this life every day. An old man in Sanjin village tapped the dirt beside the road with his cane one morning. Just once. No words. No eye contact. We moved aside. No thanks. That small gesture may have saved our patrol that day. The Taliban had a way of waiting, watching. Every hint mattered. Every small warning could be the difference between walking home and not. And then the first real explosion hit. September 3rd, 2009. Outskirts of Garmsur. I was walking in front. Nothing seemed wrong. Then pressure. Dirt hit my face. Air knocked out of me. Silence became chaos. Radios screeched. Shouts. Commands. Training kicked in before fear could settle. Get off the road. Find cover. Pull security. My hands moved before my mind caught up. The medic ran forward under fire. Calm. Precise. Knees in the dirt. Hands steady. That image. Courage doesn't roar here. It whispers in action. We lost Specialist Torres that day. No ceremony. No music. Just absence. A space where a voice should have been. You don't process it immediately. The job doesn't pause for grief. You wait. Move. Watch. Report. The sorrow comes later. And it always does. By the end of the first month, the patrols blurred. Dust. Radios. Waiting. Scanning roofs and streets. Learning who could be trusted without speaking. You don't think in weeks. You think in seconds. Steps. Corners. Shadows. Leaving Afghanistan felt unfinished. Home felt loud. Doors slammed. Cars backfired. People moved without looking at the ground, without scanning rooftops. I noticed everything. I still do. Sleep lightly. Silence wakes me before noise does. Not fear. Memory. Survival. I survived Helmand Province. But parts of me stayed behind. In Sanjin, in Nawa, in Marja, walking the streets, watching hands, waiting. Tomorrow we'd patrol again. Same roads. Same villages. Same silence waiting for us. October 12th, 2009. Sanjin District, Helmand Province. The day started like any other patrol, but the air carried a tension thicker than dust. We moved in formation along Route Tampa, heading toward a small village known for Taliban activity. Locals called it Bagran, but for us, it was a map that could explode under our feet any second. The Afghan National Army soldiers joined us again that morning. They were quiet, professional. Some carried weapons older than the dust around them, but experience weighed heavier than firepower. We nodded at each other. Coordination was silent. Communication was eyes, hands, and instinct. The first hour passed without incident. Then we reached a narrow alley between two mud brick walls. Nothing looked out of place. The sun beat down. Dust rose in small clouds as a goat wandered across the road. Then, a pressure plate IED detonated behind our convoy. The blast threw Sergeant Miller against a wall, dust and shrapnel shredding the air. I froze for a split second before training took over. "Medic!" someone shouted. My heart raced as Private Jenkins scrambled to secure the perimeter. The medic moved forward without hesitation. Bullets snapped overhead, dust stinging their eyes. Knees in the dirt, hands steady. He reached Miller, checked vitals, and applied a tourniquet. The Taliban were already shooting from rooftops and alleyways, shadows blending with the mud and heat. Firefight erupted. The sound of gunfire was immediate, close, and relentless. You didn't hear it. You felt it in your chest. Bullets cracked over walls, ricocheted off sandbags, and thumped into the dry earth. Each shot could have been yours. Every moment, life and death felt like a coin flip. We returned fire, moving tactically from cover to cover. Afghan soldiers flanked us, clearing streets and checking doors. Their familiarity with the terrain saved lives. I remember how they moved, silent, disciplined, yet every step measured the risk as carefully as we did. By late morning, we had casualties. Specialist Torres from our unit, a man who joked too loudly for a war zone, was gone. He didn't even have a chance to say goodbye. Another soldier took a leg wound, evacuated under fire. Our medevac bird hovered above, a silent witness to chaos below. Afghan villagers appeared after the firefight. Some ran to help, some hid, some watched. Faces showed relief, fear, or anger, we couldn't tell. One young boy pointed toward a damaged wall, signaling the Taliban had retreated that way. We didn't smile. There was no relief yet. We moved, eyes always scanning. That afternoon, as we regrouped, I noticed the weight in our unit. Not fatigue, not hunger. It was something else, heaviness of knowing that each patrol, each street, each alley could hold a bullet, a bomb, a sniper. We carried it silently, like a shadow we couldn't shake. October 15th, 2009. Another patrol, Nawa District. The Taliban were testing us, probing for weaknesses. An ambush erupted along the main supply route. RPGs hit vehicles. Small arms fire cracked from every angle. I remember a Humvee skidding into the ditch. Private Lopez scrambled out, shaking dust from his helmet, eyes wide. We fought back. Muzzle flashes cut through the dust. Afghan soldiers fought alongside us, pushing forward, clearing the ambush zones. One of them shouted orders in Pashto. We understood instinctively. Brotherhood here wasn't spoken. It was forged in fear, in synchronized movement, in the shared knowledge that hesitation meant death. The medic moved again under fire. This time, a soldier took multiple wounds. I watched him drag the man to cover, tourniquet bleeding arm, eyes fixed on the sky as bullets whizzed past. I realized then that courage doesn't ask permission. It doesn't look for recognition. It simply acts, because inaction is death. By late October, The pattern became clear. Routes, villages, patrols, they weren't just streets and buildings. They were living entities, breathing, observing, and striking when they sensed weakness. We learned to anticipate ambushes, to read the terrain like a language. Every pile of debris, every child pointing, every closed door was part of a story we couldn't fully read. We also learned loss differently. Not with memorials, not with speeches, with absence. Empty bunks, missing names on duty rosters, silent meals, weight pressing on your chest. Each time a comrade didn't return, the invisible line of fear moved closer. You don't cry. You prepare. You scan. You patrol. November 3rd, 2009. Marja region. The Taliban staged multiple coordinated attacks. Roads blocked. IEDs triggered. Civilians fled into alleys. We moved as one. Afghan soldiers communicated silently, leading civilians away from danger. The teamwork kept us alive, but casualties were inevitable. One of our medics took shrapnel in his leg, continuing to treat the wounded until a helicopter evac arrived. By the end of November, the reality was clear. Every patrol could be the last. Every movement counted. Silence was as deadly as gunfire. Brotherhood was the only thing heavier than fear. We carried it forward, step by step, building the rhythm of survival. And yet, there was humanity. Quiet gestures of trust, civilians offering water, Afghan soldiers sharing food, a nod acknowledging that despite war, someone cared enough to stay alive with you. These moments saved more than bullets ever could. As December approached, the operations didn't slow. Each day was a mix of tension, fear, and vigilance. Every village, every route, every encounter required full attention. The Taliban had learned from us. We had to learn faster. By this point, I understood survival wasn't about firepower or training. It was about observation, anticipation, and trust. We returned to base each night heavier. Not physically, mentally, emotionally. The faces of those lost, the sound of IEDs detonating, the sight of smoke rising from villages, the weight of responsibility pressing on every patrol, all of it layered on top of each other like sediment in the desert. January 10th, 2010. Helmand Province, Sanjan District. The winter sun barely rose over the mountains. Dust mixed with frost in the air, giving everything a gray tint. Roads were icy, but the threat never paused. Taliban didn't rest. Neither could we. The 1st Battalion, 501st Parachute Infantry, Task Force Devil, was ordered to clear several villages near the Kajaki Dam before coalition engineers could repair critical infrastructure. The 1st Patrol moved quietly at dawn. Afghan soldiers flanked us on both sides. Their eyes, familiar now, scanned each alleyway, each rooftop. Their discipline was unmatched, their experience invaluable. We communicated with hand signals, glances, instinct. Words were unnecessary. On January 12th, we hit heavy contact in a small village outside Kajaki. Taliban fighters had prepared. Roads were lined with IEDs. Mud walls masked sniper positions. The first explosion hit a Humvee carrying Sergeant Collins. The blast threw him into the ditch. Dust, debris, and burning rubber filled the air. Medics moved immediately. One soldier dragged Collins to cover while another provided suppressing fire. Bullets ricocheted off walls. I remember looking at my hands, gripping my rifle, and realizing fear was irrelevant. Training and instinct dictated motion. By late morning, we had multiple casualties. Private Daniels was hit in the chest. Afghan soldiers pulled him to cover. The air smelled of gunpowder and dust. The silence between gunfire bursts was heavier than the explosions themselves. Afghan civilians, trapped in their homes, watched silently. Some emerged to help, bringing water, guiding us through side alleys, warning of potential traps. Their courage was quiet. Some of these faces I would never see again. Others I would remember for the rest of my life. By January 15th, we secured the village, but the cost was evident. Soldiers we trained with, joked with, shared meals with, were gone. Their absence left empty spaces at checkpoints, in tents, in my memory. You don't get used to this. You carry it forward. It becomes part of your rhythm. We rotated briefly to Camp Leatherneck, Kandahar, to regroup. Letters from home arrived, but the words seemed distant, almost irrelevant against the backdrop of what we had just survived. Nights were quiet in the base, but sleep was impossible. Images of explosions, wounded soldiers, and silent villages played on repeat behind closed eyes. February 3, 2010. Marja District. Operation Moshtarak had begun months earlier, but we were still engaged in follow-up clearing operations. Every patrol had a purpose: secure streets, protect civilians, dismantle Taliban footholds. Roads became familiar yet lethal. The Taliban adapted to our methods, hiding explosives in garbage piles, shallow ditches, under mud walls. Trust in the terrain was impossible. During a mid-February patrol, we discovered a young boy hiding grenades beneath debris near the main road. He froze when he saw us. Fear in his eyes mirrored the fear I felt the first day I stepped onto Afghan soil. Afghan soldiers quickly secured the area, guiding him to safety. This moment, small and fleeting, reminded me that humanity existed even in a war designed to strip it away. By late February, the operation concluded. We had sustained losses, but our objectives were achieved. The Taliban retreated temporarily, civilians returned cautiously, and engineers repaired critical sections of the dam. We had done what we were sent to do, but the memory of blood, fear, and silence would not leave us. March 5, 2010. Our rotation home was announced. Packing gear felt surreal. Every item held memories: the dirt embedded in boots, the scratches on helmets, the maps marked with danger zones. Leaving Helmand felt like stepping away from a living, breathing entity that had consumed parts of me and of all of us. The flight out was quiet. Soldiers stared out windows at the landscape disappearing beneath clouds and haze. Kandahar airfield shrank into a gray patch of dust and buildings. We were alive, but changed. The Afghan soldiers we had fought alongside stayed behind, returning to villages still riddled with danger. Their eyes, filled with strength and fatigue, haunted me. March 6, 2010. Home. The contrast was overwhelming. Noise, traffic, lights. Conversations without urgency. Doors opened without concern for what might be behind them. I noticed everything. My body still reacted to silence. My mind still scanned for exits, shadows, movement. Not fear, memory, awareness, survival. The letters, the family, the friends, all welcomed me. But parts of me remained in Sanjin, Marja, Nawa, Kajaki. In the villages, the dust, the alleys. Every patrol, every firefight, every life saved or lost stayed with me. I tried to sleep. Images came. Explosions, blood, mud, the faces of civilians and soldiers alike. Silence. Brotherhood. Sacrifice. The desert didn't leave me. The mountains didn't leave me. The people, the living, the lost, the helpers, the fighters, they didn't leave me. You survive Afghanistan, but it never leaves you. You carry the quiet, the fear, the courage, and the losses with you. It shapes how you breathe, how you move, how you see the world. Every decision is tinged by what was left behind. Every sound triggers memory. Every hand gesture, every glance, every shadow reminds you of the streets you walked, the comrades you lost, the civilians who trusted you. And maybe that's what survival really is: learning to live with the pieces Afghanistan left in you.